Okay, everybody, let's kick this off. Welcome to our town hall. I don't know which number town hall this is anymore, but at Tableland we work on a versioning system, so this is called our version 4.1.0. I just dropped a link to today's agenda down in the general channel, and if you have questions today, as we're sharing kind of updates and everything, two options. Raise your hand and we'll have a Q&A at the end, so we'll get you up here to ask your question and we can talk about anything that's on your mind. And or if you prefer to keep it on chat, just drop a chat down in general, and we can address those live or at the Q&A at the end. We're also recording this, so we'll put it on our YouTube later if you miss any sections. So yeah, just a quick orientation for those of you that aren't familiar with Tableland or kind of new here. At Tableland, we're building a new protocol and network for creating relational databases that are Web3 native. So right now, we're deployed on three different test nets: Polygon, Ethereum, and Optimism. So that's Mumbai, Goerli, and Coven are the network names. And they allow you to write SQL directly in your smart contracts or create tables that then you can permission to any other wallet, user, or smart contract. And I gave a talk recently at NFT NYC where I was trying to push this idea that we talk a lot about NFTs as digital ownership, and I don't think it goes far enough. Because what NFTs really are ownership building blocks. And if you think about breaking up what ownership means, there's a few different features of ownership. And what's really cool is that even in the real world, when people create platforms or systems of ownership, they use those building blocks to decide how owners should interact with the objects they own. And so a really great example of this is here in the US. If you own a piece of property, you can build a house on it, perhaps, but it doesn't mean that you can dig for 40 stories into the ground. And so that sort of is a platform of ownership. And so what's really interesting is think about how this unfolds with NFTs, where a lot of people are only exploiting right now the feature of hold or sell an NFT. And with Tableland, we're thinking about NFTs as living objects where you can actually create rules for how the owners of those NFTs can change attributes and aspects of their NFT or grow them or evolve them or earn them based on games you're building or experiences you're creating. There's a lot of other really cool use cases, but I just wanted to share that with you. And we have a lot of really cool things going on. So we'll get to all that today. If you're not familiar with the technology, just check out our docs and read over what's happening there. And I'm sure some of you are here to learn more about our Rigs NFT, which we'll get to as the last item in today's agenda. Just a quick overview of that. The Rigs NFT is really meant to be a keystone NFT of our community and our ecosystem. We really want to get them in the hands of people that are building on or building for this protocol. And they're also built on top of Tableland. So the NFT themselves will have these evolving mutable traits that the owners will be able to start playing with as we slowly unfold the whole experience over the coming months. So follow that project. There's lots of really cool things in there, and we'll get to that at the end. So we're going to dive right into the technology of Tableland to start. And for those of you that are still showing up, we'll have Q&A at the end, or drop your questions in the chat on general, and we'll get to those. But yeah, so let's dive in. We operate on seasons. So seasons are 2, 3, 3.5 months long, depending on what we're trying to get done. We're currently in season 4, and we're about a half. We're approaching like a third or a halfway through. And so the first thing I want to talk about are our network upgrades. So these are upgrades that are affecting how people can create and change tables on the network, how our validators are working and data is secured. Just lots of really cool things there. And so the first person I'm going to kick it over to is Carson Farmer to talk about all the updates that have happened over the past couple weeks.
Hey, thanks, Andrew. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. So this is actually a huge season for updates and upgrades to the sort of lower level network protocol. So actually how Tableland works, how you can create tables, and even the actual language, the SQL language that we support. There's been a lot of upgrades this season, and there's going to be more coming up, which we'll sort of allude to a little bit towards the end of this update. But the biggest one, if anyone was paying attention on Twitter and things recently, is that we did a big network upgrade just recently where we effectively just updated the network to support our official SQL spec. Now, there's a lot of things that happened under the hood to get us there, and I'm going to talk about a few of those things here, and then some of them we're going to actually officially release and make a bigger deal about it later in the season. But one of the big things is now we have an official spec, which I just released a tweet thread about yesterday for some of the reasons why this is good for devs. But the big one is basically, here is a spec that you know that moving forward, we will, all validator updates and upgrades will reflect that spec. So if you're building and you build to the spec, you know that APIs aren't going to change out from under you. You're not going to suddenly not be able to do some sort of particular select statement or particular type of query or a particular type of insert or update or so on and so forth. So it gives a lot of stability to developers who are building on this fairly early version of Tableland. So that spec is live. Along with that release, we moved from, some of you might remember if you're OGs in the community, we released our MVP last February at ETH Denver. And we released that on Ethereum Rinkeby testnet. And up until fairly recently, that was the only network that we supported, and people had to do some backflips to make sure that they could test it out. Now that if the Ethereum community and the merge coming up is going to be deprecating Rinkeby, we're preemptively moving off of that network. And we're also launching on, or we have launched on 3 other testnets. So Andrew already mentioned Ethereum Goerli, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Polygon Mumbai, and Optimism Kovan. Also don't know if I'm pronouncing that one right. Anyway, these are testnets that are all available. And the really, really cool thing here is now that Tableland is a multi-chain network, that means you can deploy tables on Polygon Mumbai and say another table on Kovan, and then do queries across those tables. So literal SQL joins. And if you check out the SQL spec, you'll see that joins and things like that are supported. So you can start to come up with some pretty amazing and powerful SQL queries. We've also updated, and we're in the middle of doing lots of docs updates, which I know Dan is going to talk about, so I'm not going to steal his thunder there. But that is a good way to sort of start to dig in. And I think we're going to start to add some more general SQL updates there as well to help folks really take advantage of the power of the relational table model. Anyway, so that's pretty important. The other thing, and this is sort of like a bit of alpha, I guess, is we've swapped out the underlying SQL engine. Our original MVP on Rinkeby testnet was based on a Postgres database backend, which is one of the more popular and powerful open source databases. But for various reasons, which we will mention when we do the official launch, we're swapping out our validator to use SQLite. And there's a ton of really nice reasons for this, and I don't want to steal our thunder about later on when we talk about why, but that is happening, and that was a huge chunk of work that our engineering team did to move over from Postgres to SQLite, and the benefits are going to last for a really long time. So that's great. And as part of that work, we also implemented our own custom parser, SQL parser, and we're going to do another big announcement about that because it's really cool work. It really provides a lot more power to how we can grow and upgrade the SQL spec, kind of separate from the back-end SQL engine that we're using. And so I'm not going to go into the sort of nitty-gritty details there, but just first of all, just a huge big shout out to Ignacio and Bruno from our team on all the work that they did there. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, everything just works and it's great, and nobody sees all the hard work that went into that. So big ups to those guys. So if you're interested in finding out more about the network upgrade stuff that's happened so far, the best way to start is to check out, if you're looking at the town hall notes today, there's a tweet thread about the new network upgrade in general. And then there's a follow-up tweet thread about the SQL spec release. And there's lots of nice links in there and some sort of information about why we did what we did, etc. So check that out. Then there are all of these sort of related updates about supporting multiple networks, making it easier to do on-chain and programmable access control, and all of that cool stuff you can check out in the EVM Tableland and docs links that are in the notes. And I'm not going to go into details about that programmable access control thing because I think we need to do a full blog post and docs release about that. And I think Andrew and Dan have been spending a lot of time on that. So again, I'm not going to steal the thunder there, but check that stuff out when it comes out. Lastly, what's next in terms of network upgrades and things like that? So here's a bit more sort of sneak preview stuff. We are going to be doing, towards the end of this season, an official release of our open source validator. And that's going to include all the upgrades to the SQL engine, the parser, and all that awesome stuff. And that's going to be a whole to-do unto itself, and I'm really looking forward to that. We're also going to be open source. Well, actually, all this stuff is already open source, but we're going to do an announcement about our custom parser. And I'd like to dig into a bit of the what, how, and why we did it. And so we'll reveal that through some kind of fun community announcements and tweets and things like that. And then we've got, in sort of as part of the big open sourcing of the validator push, there are a bunch of developer experience optimizations that we've been playing around with, especially around NFTs and NFT metadata and things like that. And so a bunch of that is going to come out soon. And so speaking of which, I think Dan's going to talk about a bunch of that stuff in a minute. But before I do that, I just wanted to tag Ignacio or Bruno. If there's anything I'm missing that we should make sure that everybody knows about, they can jump in and speak now or forever hold their peace. Otherwise, we can leave it at that. No pressure, but if there's something I miss, let me know.
Nice. Thanks, Carson. If anybody jumps up and interrupts, I'll let them talk. But yeah, the piece that you didn't want to go into about the access control and everything, Dan's going to share a little bit about that now. It wrapped into a lot of other things, but we have some pretty cool tutorials and documentation. The first of those are actually landing today. I think you can check them out live already, but I'll let Dan talk about all that. Pretty excited to share that with all of you because I think it's going to help you build a lot of stuff. Anyway, so next up, Dan.
Cool. Yeah, so let's talk some developer resources, and we're going to kick it off with just a blast of some of the new docs that Andrew just alluded to. So I posted a few resources in the general channel just to get you started. Everything is accessible at docs.tableland.xyz. We released some docs specifically around just NFT metadata. So for those of you who are NFT creators, you're probably familiar with some of the basics. So we do have some of that information already in there, but also increasingly get into some more details in terms of how you can leverage SQL to make dynamic NFTs. So check out some of those links that I just posted. There's one in particular, build a dynamic NFT with Solidity. This is actually one that we walked through during our HackFS workshop this past Friday, and it's really interesting. The main premise is that you can create a game with this global table that manages the entire NFT state or the game state as an NFT, because every table in Tableland is an NFT. And then you can also have users writing to this table and basically create even layers on top of this that kind of resembles something like Reddit Place, if anyone's familiar with that. So a lot of cool things that you can do with that, and hopefully our documentation there provides a lot of clarity. We also have our contracts repo, EVM-Tableland, out. So it's currently live. It's you can install it with npm in case you're developing locally or in production or on test nets with something like Hardhat or any smart contract development framework. So check that out if you want to leverage the Tableland smart contracts. Some of the interesting features that we have in there include, if you have been playing around with Tableland, you'll notice that you can have these like custom queries basically appended to the Tableland gateway URL. And that's really powerful when it comes to the actual smart contract and the token URI parameter. But it can be kind of challenging for like string templating in there. So what we've done is released a utility library essentially within EVM Tableland. So check that out within I believe it's the utils directory, if I remember correctly. Cool. And as I noted, HackFS is going on right now. We're heads down on that, helping people just build things with Tableland. So if you're part of that, hop in either the Discord here or over at HackFS and call me out. This is DTB. That's my handle on Discord. Just trying to help everyone build cool things with Tableland using some of what I just touched on there. And if you are a builder, every Wednesday and Thursday, we have developer office hours. So check out the events in Discord to see that time relative to your time zone. And then lastly, just to touch on what's coming next. So more docs, documenting SQL, documenting smart contracts, just trying to give you guys more information as you start to build and use Tableland in all of your projects. We'll also have some tutorials coming up, as well as just some additional blogs around Tableland technology. So that was a wrap of the developer relations little track there. I'll pass it back to Andrew if you have anything to add.
No, that was awesome. So much momentum right now. So hopefully people can jump into some of that. Like you said, the links down in general should get people started. So that kind of transitions us into the next big thing that we're doing, which is called the pilot program, which we just kicked off this week. I think that there's a few folks from the program here in the town hall. We're just really excited to partner with all these people. So I'll hand it off to Brian to start to share kind of where we are with that and what's happening, and we'll talk a little bit about the teams that are started there.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. So the pilot program kicked off this week. Actually, we have two tracks. We have a developer track and a partner track, and we had called all the developers yesterday, which was awesome. And we just had a call with Surreal. I see Nick is here, and we got to connect with his whole team, or most of his team. And then we're kicking off with Dap House a little later today. So things are in motion. Really excited to weave the larger community into kind of that container. So there will be basically a 7-week program, and the goal is to incubate different projects that these developers and teams are working on. And we will be inviting the community into some of the voting around. There's going to be some prizes at the end for some of the top teams and innovations that come through. Definitely check out that, as we'll keep you posted as how you guys can engage with some of that. And we will be having, like on Fridays, a open co-working session with the teams. There will be some opportunities for folks, if you're curious to see what's going on, to weave in. We're still kind of exploring how the membrane is going to be between the program and the rest of the community, but we're very much interested in creating a community of learning and building together. And so this pilot program is just a great opportunity for us to work with some amazing, talented developers in the space and get to see from them firsthand, like, what ways do they want to use Tableland, and it's going to be really cool just to see how it builds out the network just through these different innovation streams. So really excited to report back to everyone on that. And yeah, I think we'll give a little bit of detail. I think, Dan, maybe you can share some of the details going on with the developers, what they're building, and maybe we can weave Marla in as well to speak on behalf of some of the partners.
Sure. So just wanted to give a shout out to some of those folks developing on Tableland in this pilot program. So to start, we can just talk through. So we have a member from the Rebel.Fund team, That's Michael Boyle. So he's looking to basically build some. There's a couple of different tracks that he's looking to tackle, but one example is just like sort of looking at Discord membership on chain and looking at how you can replace that using Tableland as this like open database in a sense. So there's some other cool ideas around there around universal commenting, bringing that type of system to Web3, leveraging Tableland to write to some commenting table. So I'm looking forward to kicking off that sort of building. Faces from the Dope Wars team is trying to build a leaderboard for their gaming community. So then basically just have this openly accessible leaderboard, which is again a perfect use case with Tableland, touching on that HackFS thing that we just walked through. The I guess if you didn't participate in that HackFS workshop, you wouldn't know. But again, we have the docs if you want to see it. But basically, this global state of gaming where users are writing to tables, or at least like reading to the table of that global state game. It's sort of a similar idea there. So a lot of cool things happening with Faces and Dope Wars. For MetaBadge, we have Rahul from that team, who's basically looking to use Tableland within their MetaBadge product, which is basically like reputation tracking using NFTs and SBTs, if you're familiar with Soulbound tokens, but leveraging Tableland to add some metadata to the actual reputation tracking. So inserting data based on contributions, as an example, into a Tableland table. And then lastly, we have Daniel Orlund, who is a developer from a community developer from the Chain Runners community. And there's a lot of cool ideas that he's looking at, but really just focused on like derivatives of the Chain Runners, because there's a lot of cool stuff that Chain Runners really focus on within like rewarding people for building derivatives. So he's trying to make that experience as a whole much more optimal. So that's a wrap for the developer track, and we're really looking forward to the next 6-7 weeks and getting some projects building on Tableland.
Nice. So I'm going to step in for Marla on the partner track. So partner track, these are companies that we've been partnered with for a while now, who already had projects that they kickstarted, and so we're partnering more closely with them to give them a lot of resources over the coming weeks and help them move their projects forward. And so we've partnered with two different projects to do this. The first one is called Surreal Events. Surreal Events, they build, I guess the easiest way to say it is they build custom metaverse experiences for different NFT projects and brands. And they've just done a really broad diversity of experiences and designs, and just do some really cool things. And so now they're working on really integrating Web3 ownership into their experiences, and they've already taken a pretty big step in that direction, and have some really nice work unfolding. And so what they're exploring with Tableland now is how they can put user-owned assets into tables, so that you have NFT-based ownership of things like in-game assets and avatars and things like that. So really excited to see this unfold. And if you haven't checked out what they do, check out the Surreal Events website for a complete rundown. Just such momentum on that team. And we'll actually, all of these projects, will be sharing some more information about them on Twitter over the coming days. So look out for that too. The second project in the partner track is called Dap House. And so Dap House have been building games and experiences in virtual worlds predominantly for a while now. And so they're exploring how to build some basic games where game standings and assets are tracked through Tableland, and the experience is built into existing virtual world platforms. And they're also actually exploring some sort of engine-based components of that too. And so I think there's a lot of really interesting things we'll learn building with them, and another just really exciting project that has had a lot of momentum building these experiences in Web3. So lots of really neat stuff there. If just to reiterate a bit of what's coming, so the well, maybe Brian, do you want to actually just take us out on this?
Yeah, sure. So, just a couple of dates to highlight. We're going to have all of the project briefs kind of finalized in like a week and a half, so at the end of next week. So, stay tuned for that. And then, like we said, it's a 7-week program. So, there's going to be a showcase. It's going to be around August 25th that we're planning to have that. And that is going to be an opportunity for the whole community to get involved in that. So, yeah, really excited to see what we can accomplish together in the next 7 weeks and weave everyone in on the fun.
All right. So many updates. So I can blast through this one so we can get to rigs, but this one is actually very cool. So like I said at the onset, Tableland is a decentralized protocol and network. And so one of the key pieces of that is our validator stack. So this allows people to run nodes on our network and actually secure the data that you're putting into tables. And so we have a couple things there. The big one is that we have an operator interest sign-up form that's still open. I'm noticing that on the agenda, the links are still broken, or were broken when I was writing that. So I'll drop the link back in the agenda. So if you look after the town hall, you can find those, but also we'll drop it in general. So if you are somebody who's run Validator or Web3 infrastructure before and you're interested in getting involved in our Validator network, drop your information in that form because we're going to be looking for some early node operators to work with us. And if you are one of those people, we'll be opening up a Discord channel in August, I assume, for validators to basically help coordinate and help us really optimize this stack. And along with that, the docs are coming for how to run your own validator, and that's coming very soon. But yeah, so that's a pretty quick one. But if you're interested in Web3 infrastructure and running that, or you know people that are, get them in touch, get them that form. Link coming in general in a minute. So with that, I think what a lot of you are waiting to hear about is the status of Tableland rigs and kind of how that's going to unfold over the coming days. And so for that, I'm going to kick this over to Sanderpick.
Nice. Thanks, Andrew. Just an insane amount of updates. And this is one of them. The rigs are finally coming. And let's see, we had about 7,300 signups across the various pre-mint lists, and we ran those raffles yesterday, so look out in your email to see if you won. Likely you just got on the wait list. I have a feeling those will be useful. Typically everyone that makes the allow list doesn't end up minting, so definitely check in when the time comes. So for the timeline, the mint will start this Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, so I think that's 1700 UTC. And that'll run all weekend, so you'll have until Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. to use those slots. And there is a chance that you have more than one allowance. So if that's true, then you'll be able to mint multiple. That's because we ran a few different lists and there's a chance that you won multiple times. And from there, we're going to do this waitlist pattern. So this is something that Premint recommends. I've seen other projects do really well. So you've got a lot of signups, and the idea is to, if it doesn't sell out, then we still don't want people to be competing with bots and doing gas wars and everything. So we put everyone on the allow list that signed up, or everyone on the wait list that signed up and didn't make the allow list. So, and again, there's a chance that you have multiple waitlist spots. So you'll have a day to do that. And then finally on Tuesday, the 19th at 10 a.m. Pacific, the public mint will start, if there are any left. And we'll just keep posting reminders, announcements, and everything about that. Let's see what's next. So as this unfolds, we're going to start converting our Discord into rig owner channels, and we'll make that slow and clear so it's not confusing. And well, yeah, we'll have like a rig owner channel and also channels to access other opportunities, really hands-on building resources, and also other pilot program opportunities and all that. So yeah, this has been a huge push for us. We're sort of like pick and shovel type crew, so we had to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and get into the NFT building thing. But yeah, it's been really fun just dog fooding our own tech. So the rigs are built on Tableland, and we've, like Andrew mentioned, we've got a number of other experiences coming out for them in the future that will leverage some of the dynamic, sort of immutable dynamism based on rules. And yeah, I'm really stoked for it.
Me too. So yeah, I think that takes us to the end of our updates, and so we have some room now for some Q&A and just general discussion. So if anybody has any questions now, feel free to raise your hand or drop them in general, and we can get to those. I see one question already about this idea of winning more than one allow list spot, and are those stackable, like you can mint double allocation. So yeah, if you won more than one spot, you can mint as many as spots as many as the spots you won.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and definitely if folks haven't read about rigs, there's not a lot of good info just at tableland.xyz/rigs. That'll also be where you go to mint. So there'll be a link there to go to a minting page. And yeah, the whole kind of fun narrative and everything's there. So give that a read for sure.
I see the next question is the mint price. So that's 0.05 ETH. Yeah.
I should also mention that for anyone that worked on this project, so that includes the Tableland crew and also Oddfellows. There's about 11 artists over there that worked on Tableland, worked on the rigs. And so all those folks will get one free mint. So just wanted to be clear about that. If anyone sees any free mint transactions and is curious, that's what those are.
So next question is, will I benefit from owning a rig if I'm a non-dev? Well, it depends what you mean by benefit. I think there's a lot of really neat reasons to own rigs. One is if you are a developer and you want to take part in some of the different events and opportunities we'll build into rig ownership for developers. There's others that are just like helping us build the community and taking part in stewarding the ecosystem forward. And so we have a mention of that in the agenda, this rig owner pilot program crossover opportunity. So one of the first ones is just helping us identify and reward really great projects on the network. And then of course there's the art, and the sort of being part of this community, I think, is a really cool thing. And I'm sure we'll layer in lots of other things there. So it's not strictly developers, though we are trying to get it in the hands of as many developers as possible, because this is really a technology project under the hood, and we want to make this protocol awesome.
Yep. Oh, other little thing probably should just keep repeating is we will be holding 100 rigs. So Tableland will mint 100, and we're going to use those for continuing with the pilot programs and everything. So those will not hit secondary or anything like that. Also, the funds from the mints are not going to our core team or anything. Those are funds for the Tableland protocol. Any other questions? Andrew, do you see anything?
Yeah, I see one about how long after mint will the utility come into play to run a node? Wasn't that part of the utility of holding one? Actually, I think that it's a little bit backwards. So one of the ideas that we're playing with, and we haven't published a roadmap here or anything, so this is just kind of an inside look. But one of the ideas we're playing with is that all the validators on the network, especially the early network, will need to own a rig in order to partake. And in that way, we'll start basically using their rig to show stats and success in securing the network. And so we're kind of playing with building some things around that. But there's not, by owning a rig, you won't necessarily just be running a node. But by running a node, you'll need to own a rig.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you do want to run a validator, and for some reason you can't get your hand on a rig, that's one of the reasons why we're holding 100. So we don't want that to be like a barrier. It's supposed to be a feature on top, not added friction.
Yeah, and if we find actually that is adding too much friction, we always just probably move a different direction. So. I see one that is, I won a pre-mint raffle from Zen Academy. Do I open a ticket? No, you should be good to go. The address that you put in that pre-mint raffle will be the one that is in the allow list starting on Thursday.
Yeah. So we're just mashing all those lists together, and the 333 Zen Academy is included. So the way that we're doing it is with the Merkle tree proof setup. So we just have a couple different trees for each list. So the allow list and the wait list. And actually, we're using a table table to store all those. So when you actually go to Mint, this is getting in the weeds here, but when you actually go to Mint, the front end will be coring that table to figure out your different allowances, and then using the actually it'll create a tree from that table and then generate the proof and submit that to the contract.
So artwork is phenomenal. Agree. Another comment in general. Interested in running a validator? Yeah, for sure. So sorry, I can't actually pull up the link during the call, but after the call, I'll drop a link to that validator interest form. Just drop your info in there if you haven't already, and we'll start processing those in the coming weeks. Okay. So much momentum, so many things. I can't believe how fast things are flying out now. I think we're going to hold to having the next town hall in 2 weeks. I think that makes a lot of sense because it will be post rigs, and I think that there'll be a lot of new people in the community then that might have questions, and we can just talk about what's happened and what we've got done and what's coming up there again. And maybe it'll be a little bit more brief than this one because there was just so much new information to share. But yeah, even though the town hall is ending, keep your questions coming in general. If you've got more, we're happy to answer everything that you can imagine, and really excited for the network, the pilot program, the NFT launch. Just things are nuts right now. So thanks for joining us for all of this. That's all I got.
Awesome stuff.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Have a good week.
Happy
Cheers, y'all.
Tuesday. Bye, everybody.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming, everyone.